This message found you because there's something dormant inside you that's ready to activate. Not in some distant future, not after years of practice, but right now, in this exact moment. Your quantum field has been preparing for this activation through every visualization you've ever done, through every dream you've ever had, through every moment you've closed your eyes and seen something beyond physical reality. Right now, as you're absorbing these words, there's a specific frequency building in your pineal gland. Neuroscience calls it DMT production. Mystics call it the third eye opening. Quantum physicists call it consciousness accessing non-local information fields. But what it actually is your brain beginning to function as a quantum antenna, tuning into dimensions of reality that most people never perceive. Have you ever visualized something so clearly, so vividly, that for a moment it felt more real than your physical surroundings? Have you ever closed your eyes and seen colors that don't exist in the visible spectrum? Geometric patterns that seem to contain infinite information, or images that feel like memories from a future that hasn't happened yet? Those weren't just imagination. Those were actual quantum events happening in your consciousness. What if I told you that visualization isn't just mental imagery? What if every time you visualize, you're literally collapsing probability waves in the quantum field, selecting from infinite possibilities and pulling specific timelines toward your physical reality? What if your mind's eye isn't just seeing things that don't exist? It's seeing things that exist in quantum superposition, waiting for your observation to collapse them into physical form. The CIA spent millions of dollars researching what they called remote viewing, the ability to visualize locations, events, and information across space and time. Their declassified documents prove that trained visualizers could accurately describe targets they had never physically seen, could access information that had no logical explanation. But what they discovered, and what they couldn't fully understand without quantum mechanics, is that visualization isn't passive observation. It's active creation. Every spiritual tradition has known this. The Tibetan Buddhists practiced deity yoga, where they visualize enlightened beings in such detail that those beings become real presences in their consciousness. Hindu yogis use trataka and dharana, visualization practices that allow them to materialize objects, influence physical reality, and access cities that defy conventional understanding. The Kabbalists speak of Yetzirah, the world of formation where thought crystallizes into reality. But here's what's different now. Here's why you found this message at this precise moment in your journey. We're living in a time when quantum physics has caught up with ancient mysticism. We now have the scientific framework to understand exactly how visualization creates reality at the subatomic level. We can measure it, replicate it, teach it systematically. And if you're watching this, if these words are landing in your consciousness with the weight of recognition rather than the surprise of new information, it's because your quantum field has been orchestrating this moment. You're not here by accident. You're here because something in you is ready to unlock abilities that have been dormant, waiting for the right frequency of information to activate them. The question isn't whether you have quantum powers. You do. Every human consciousness has access to the same fundamental abilities because we're all expressions of the same quantum field. The question is, are you ready to stop treating visualization as imagination and start using it as the quantum technology it actually is? You've been experiencing something unusual with your visualizations lately, haven't you? They've been getting more vivid, more detailed, more real. Sometimes when you close your eyes, the images are so clear that you can see textures, feel temperatures, hear sounds that seem to come from somewhere beyond your memory. And sometimes those visualizations start appearing in your physical reality in ways that seem impossible to explain as coincidence. Maybe you visualized a specific conversation, and days later, that exact conversation happened with the same words, the same emotional tone, the same setting. Maybe you've been seeing symbols or images in your mind's eye, and then those exact symbols start appearing in your waking life, on billboards, in books, in random conversations. Maybe you've had visions of places you've never been, and then you discover those places actually exist exactly as you saw them. This is not your imagination running wild. This is not coincidence. This is not even synchronicity in the traditional sense. What you're experiencing is your consciousness beginning to operate at the quantum level, where visualization and manifestation are the same thing, where seeing and creating are one unified act, where the distinction between mental imagery and physical reality starts to dissolve. You might have noticed that time behaves strangely during deep visualization. You enter a visualized reality, and what feels like hours of experience happens in minutes of clock time. Or the opposite. You visualize for what feels like seconds, but when you open your eyes, significant time has passed. This temporal distortion is evidence that your consciousness is accessing dimensions where time is fluid, where past, present, and future exist simultaneously. The ancient yogis called this samadhi, a state where the observer, the observed, and the act of observation merge into one unified field. Modern neuroscience has identified this as transient hypofrontality, a state where the brain's sense of time and self temporarily dissolve, allowing consciousness to perceive reality without the normal filters and limitations. Have you been seeing geometric patterns lately, especially with eyes closed, in meditation, in that space between waking and sleeping? Sacred geometry, mandalas, flower of life patterns, Metatron's cube, fractal structures that seem to contain infinite information. These aren't random visual phenomena. These are the actual structures of consciousness itself, the templates that organize energy into form at the quantum level. Dr. Rick Strassman's DMT research showed that when the pineal gland produces this molecule naturally or through meditation, people consistently report seeing the same geometric structures, the same archetypal beings, the same dimensional landscapes. What he couldn't fully explain, but what quantum consciousness research is now revealing, is that these aren't hallucinations. They're perceptions of the quantum field's actual architecture. You might have experienced what I call future memory. Memories of things that haven't happened yet. Not predictions, not guesses, but actual detailed memories of future events that your consciousness has already experienced in quantum superposition. You remember the feeling of an achievement before you've achieved it. You remember the face of someone before you've met them. You remember the atmosphere of a place before you've been there. This happens because at the quantum level, all possibilities exist simultaneously. Your consciousness, when it visualizes deeply enough, when it enters coherent enough states, can access these parallel timelines. You're not imagining the future. You're remembering it from the quantum probability space where it already exists. And here's the validation you've been seeking. You're not crazy. You're not making this up. You're not experiencing delusion or fantasy. You're experiencing reality as it actually is when consciousness operates without the filters of conditioned perception. You're perceiving the quantum nature of existence that has always been there, but that most people never access. The reason you've felt different your entire life. The reason you've always sensed there was more to reality than what others could see. The reason visualization has always felt like more than just imagination to you. It's because you're operating in a frequency band that allows direct perception of and interaction with the quantum field. You're not learning something new right now. You're getting validation for what you've always known, but were taught to doubt. Your sensitivity isn't weakness. Your vivid inner world isn't escapism. Your ability to see beyond the physical isn't fantasy. These are quantum abilities that you've been developing, probably unconsciously, probably since childhood. And now, Now it's time to understand what you've been doing and learn to use these abilities consciously, systematically, powerfully. Every moment of your life when people told you that you were too in your head, every time someone said you needed to be more realistic, every criticism you received for being a dreamer, a visualizer, someone who lived in imagination. All of that was actually evidence of your quantum gift being suppressed by people who couldn't perceive what you could perceive. Think about the butterfly in the cocoon again, but from a different angle. Before the caterpillar even enters the cocoon, before the transformation begins, imaginal cells already exist in its body. These cells carry the complete blueprint of the butterfly. But here's what's fascinating. The caterpillar's immune system attacks these imaginal cells. It recognizes them as foreign, as threatening, as something that needs to be destroyed. Your visualization abilities are like those imaginal cells. They've always been there, carrying the blueprint of who you're becoming. And the rational, conditioned, society-programmed part of your mind has been attacking them, trying to suppress them, telling you they're not real, not practical, not valuable. But they've survived. They've been growing stronger, and now they're ready to transform your entire reality. Every time you were punished for daydreaming in school, every time you were told to stop being so imaginative and focus on real life, every moment when your gift for visualization was treated as a distraction rather than the quantum technology it actually is, those weren't obstacles. Those were tests. They were pressure creating the conditions necessary for your abilities to strengthen rather than atrophy. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk's research on trauma and the body reveals something profound. The most powerful healing happens through visualization and mental imagery. When people visualize different outcomes to traumatic events, when they see themselves in empowered states, when they create detailed mental images of safety and wholeness, their nervous system responds as if those visualizations were real experiences. The body cannot distinguish between vividly imagined experience and actual physical experience. But this goes deeper than healing. If your nervous system responds to visualization as reality, if your cells reorganize based on visualized states, if your DNA expression changes in response to mental imagery, then visualization isn't separate from reality creation. It is reality creation at the most fundamental level. The shamanic traditions understood this completely. When a shaman journeys to retrieve a soul fragment or receive healing knowledge, they're not engaging in metaphor or symbol. They're actually traveling in consciousness to real dimensions where that soul fragment exists, where that knowledge is available. And when they return with it, tangible changes occur in physical reality because they've worked at the quantum level where thought and matter are one substance. Every difficulty you faced in manifesting through visualization, every time you visualized something clearly but it didn't materialize, every moment of doubt about whether this really works, those weren't failures. Those were your quantum system calibrating itself. Learning to distinguish between visualization from ego and visualization from coherence. Learning to tell the difference between mental imagery driven by fear and visualization aligned with your highest timeline. The Hermetic principle, as above, so below, doesn't mean that mental imagery reflects physical reality. It means that mental imagery creates physical reality. The above, the realm of consciousness, thought, and visualization, is the causal plane. The below, the realm of physical manifestation, is the effect plane. You've been learning to work with cause rather than effect, even when you didn't consciously know that's what you were doing. Now, I want you to recontextualize every visualization practice you've ever done. Every time you closed your eyes and saw something beyond the physical, you were actually training your consciousness to navigate quantum probability space. Every detailed image you created mentally, you were actually practicing the art of collapsing specific possibilities from the field of infinite potential. Every moment you spent in your inner visual world, you were developing the abilities that mystics spend lifetimes cultivating. You haven't been wasting time. You haven't been avoiding reality. You've been developing quantum capabilities that most people never discover. And all of that practice, all of that development, all of those years of your consciousness learning to visualize with clarity and detail, it's brought you to this moment where you're ready to understand what you've been doing and activate it fully. The pressure, the criticism, the doubt, the times when manifestations seemed to fail, these created the intensity necessary for your visualization abilities to evolve from passive imagination into active quantum technology. The diamond requires pressure to form. The sword requires fire to be tempered. And your quantum powers required exactly the journey you've had to be ready for what's about to activate. Something is shifting in your pineal gland right now. Can you feel it? A slight pressure in the center of your forehead. Maybe a tingling sensation, perhaps a subtle vibration that seems to pulse with its own rhythm. This isn't suggestion. This is your third eye responding to the frequency of these words, to the information your consciousness is integrating, to the activation that's already beginning. The pineal gland is the most mysterious structure in the human brain. It's the only unpaired organ, sitting precisely at the geometric center of your skull. Ancient anatomists called it the seat of the soul. Descartes believed it was where mind and body interacted. Modern science has discovered it produces DMT, melatonin, and other neurochemicals that regulate consciousness. But what quantum research is now revealing is that the pineal gland functions as a quantum antenna. Dr. Stuart Hameroff's research on quantum consciousness in microtubules shows that the pineal gland contains more of these quantum structures than any other part of the brain. These microtubules can exist in quantum superposition, processing information not through classical computation, but through quantum entanglement with the field itself. When you visualize, you're not just creating images in your brain, you're tuning this quantum antenna to specific frequencies in the field. You might be noticing that your awareness is expanding as you read these words, like your consciousness is becoming more spacious, less confined to the boundaries of your physical body. This is the beginning of what yogis call turiya, the fourth state of consciousness beyond waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. It's the state where visualization becomes so real that it's indistinguishable from physical experience. In this state, the boundary between observer and observed dissolves. When you visualize, you don't just see an image, you become the image. You don't just imagine a reality, you inhabit it. And when consciousness inhabits a reality at the quantum level with enough coherence, that reality has no choice but to materialize in physical form. This is the mechanism behind every miracle, every manifestation, every moment when visualization became material. The Kabbalistic tree of life places Yesod, the foundation, the realm of mental imagery and visualization, directly above Malkuth, physical manifestation. The ancient mystics understood that you cannot access the highest realms without first mastering the realm of visualization. It's not optional, it's not preliminary. It's the fundamental mechanism through which consciousness creates reality. But here's where most people get stuck. And this is crucial to understand before we go deeper. They visualize from the wrong frequency. They create detailed mental images while their nervous system is in a state of lack, while their subconscious beliefs contradict what they're visualizing, while their emotional body broadcasts fear. And then they wonder why visualization doesn't work. Visualization is quantum technology. And like any technology, it has specific requirements for optimal function. You cannot visualize abundance while feeling scarcity and expect the visualization to override the feeling. You cannot visualize health while identified with disease. You cannot visualize success while embodying failure, because the quantum field responds to the totality of your frequency, not just the images in your mind. There's a specific practice, a specific technique, a specific way of working with visualization that I discovered during the darkest period of my life. A way that bypasses the obstacles that stop most people. a way that works with the actual quantum mechanics of consciousness rather than against them. And when I applied this technique, when I understood what I was actually doing, when I visualized from this place, everything changed. Reality didn't just shift gradually, it quantum jumped. Possibilities that hadn't existed in my field of awareness suddenly became available. People, resources, and opportunities that were nowhere on my radar materialized seemingly out of nowhere. And I realized that I hadn't attracted them. I had collapsed them from quantum probability space through visualization practiced in a very specific way. Feel the energy building in your system right now. Notice how your breathing might have shifted, how your awareness might have expanded, how something in you knows that what's coming next is important. This is your quantum field preparing itself to receive information that will activate dormant capabilities. This is your consciousness recognizing that you're about to learn something that will change everything about how you use visualization. But before I reveal this technique, before I show you exactly how to visualize in a way that works with quantum mechanics rather than against them, you need to understand my story. Because what I'm about to teach you didn't come from books or courses or teachers. It came from direct experience in the quantum field during a moment when I had nothing left to lose and everything to gain. 5 years ago, I was lying in a hospital bed at 2 a.m., unable to sleep, my body racked with an illness that doctors couldn't explain and couldn't cure. For 8 months, I had been declining physically while simultaneously experiencing the most intense spiritual awakening of my life. It was like my body was dying while my consciousness was being born. Every medical test came back inconclusive. Every treatment failed. Every doctor eventually admitted they didn't know what was wrong. And in that hospital room, in that moment of complete surrender, I closed my eyes and began to visualize. Not because I thought it would work. I had tried visualization before and saw no results, but because I had literally nothing else left to try. But this time was different. Instead of visualizing from the desperate person lying in the hospital bed, instead of trying to see myself as healthy from a place of being sick, something shifted. I stopped trying to visualize at all. I simply allowed an image to emerge from somewhere deeper than my conscious mind. And what emerged was so vivid, so real, so detailed that I couldn't tell if my eyes were open or closed. I saw myself, but not as I was. I saw a version of me that existed in complete wholeness, in perfect health, in absolute vitality. But I wasn't watching this version from outside. I was experiencing this reality from inside it. I could feel the energy coursing through that body. I could sense the clarity in that mind. I could perceive the coherence in that nervous system. And then something extraordinary happened. The image didn't feel like visualization anymore. It felt like memory, like I was remembering a reality that already existed, not creating a future reality that might exist. And in that remembering, in that recognition, my consciousness shifted completely. I wasn't sick trying to visualize health. I was health itself, temporarily experiencing the illusion of sickness. I stayed in that state for what felt like hours, but was probably 20 minutes of clock time. And when I finally opened my eyes, when I returned to normal awareness, everything felt different. Not in my physical body, that still felt weak, but in my relationship to my body. Like I had touched a truth so fundamental that the physical symptoms suddenly seemed temporary, optional, changeable. Within 3 days, my symptoms began to improve. Within 2 weeks, I was out of the hospital. Within a month, I was healthier than I had been in years. The doctors called it spontaneous remission. My family called it a miracle, but I knew exactly what had happened. I had accessed a timeline where that illness didn't exist, and through visualization practiced from a completely different frequency, I had collapsed that timeline into physical reality. That experience changed everything I thought I knew about visualization. I realized that most people visualize from the state of wanting, from the energy of lack, from the consciousness of the person who doesn't have what they're visualizing. They try to see themselves as successful from the frequency of failure. They try to imagine wealth from the vibration of poverty. They try to visualize love from the feeling of loneliness. But that's like trying to tune a radio to 98.5 while the dial is locked on 95.3. The visualization might be clear, the image might be detailed, but it cannot manifest because the consciousness doing the visualizing is broadcasting a contradictory frequency. The quantum field receives mixed signals and collapses a reality that matches the underlying frequency, not the surface image. After my healing, I became obsessed with understanding what had happened. I studied quantum physics, neuroscience, ancient mysticism, consciousness research, anything that could explain how visualization could create such a rapid, total transformation. And I discovered that every tradition, every science, every system of knowledge pointed to the same principle. Consciousness creates reality not through what it visualizes, but through what it embodies while visualizing. I began experimenting with this understanding. I would enter visualizations not as the person who wanted something, but as the consciousness that already was that reality in quantum superposition. I visualized not from effort, but from recognition. Not from trying to create the future, but from remembering it. And every single time, reality responded. Opportunities I'd been working toward for years suddenly materialized in weeks. Relationships that had been complicated suddenly clarified. Money I had been struggling to generate suddenly flowed. Not because the external world changed, but because my consciousness had accessed the timeline where these things already existed. And physical reality had no choice but to reorganize itself around that new frequency. If you're still with me right now, if my story is landing in your awareness with the feeling of recognition rather than just interest, it's because something in you knows you're capable of this same transformation. You've probably already experienced glimpses of it, moments when visualization worked so perfectly that it seemed too good to be true. Moments when reality bent in response to your inner imagery. Those weren't flukes. Those weren't luck. Those were moments when, probably without knowing it, you visualized from coherence rather than from want. From embodiment rather than from desire. From the consciousness that already was the reality rather than the consciousness trying to become it. And now I'm going to show you exactly how to do this consciously, systematically, powerfully. Subscribe to this channel right now, because here we don't just talk about quantum consciousness. We activate it. We don't just discuss visualization. We master it at the level where it becomes quantum technology. Now I'm going to tell you something that will completely invert your understanding of how visualization actually works. Ready? Visualization doesn't create anything new. It reveals what already exists in quantum superposition. You're not generating realities through mental imagery. You're selecting them from the infinite field of possibilities that exist right now. At the quantum level, Schrödinger's equation tells us that all possible states of any system exist simultaneously until observation collapses one possibility into actuality. Your future isn't a blank slate that you're creating from scratch. Your future is a probability cloud containing every possible version of your life. Success and failure, health and sickness, abundance and poverty, all existing in superposition right now. When you visualize, you're not imagining something that might exist someday. You're observing something that exists now in quantum potential. And the act of observation, especially observation done with enough coherence, enough emotional resonance, enough sensory detail, causes that particular probability to collapse from potential into physical experience. Dr. Hugh Everett's many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics suggests that every possible outcome of every quantum event actually occurs, each in its own parallel universe. What mystics have always taught about multiple realities, parallel timelines, and simultaneous existences, quantum physics is now describing mathematically. And visualization is the technology that allows your consciousness to shift between these realities. But here's the shocking part that changes everything. Most people are unconsciously visualizing their current reality into existence every single day. They wake up and immediately start mentally rehearsing the same day they had yesterday. They visualize themselves struggling with the same problems, experiencing the same limitations, repeating the same patterns, and then they wonder why their life never changes. You're visualizing constantly whether you know it or not. Every time you replay past events in your mind, you're visualizing. Every time you worry about future scenarios, you're visualizing. Every time you mentally rehearse how you'll respond to situations, you're visualizing. The question isn't whether you visualize, you do, continuously. The question is, what are you visualizing? And from what frequency are you visualizing it? Dr. Joe Dispenza's research proves that the brain cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and an actual physical experience. When you visualize with enough sensory detail and emotional intensity, your brain fires the same neural patterns, releases the same neurochemicals, creates the same biological responses as if the visualized experience were physically happening. You're not pretending. You're training your nervous system to embody a new reality. But the implications go deeper than neuroscience. At the quantum level, when you visualize something with coherence, meaning your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and nervous system are all aligned with that vision, you create what physicists call quantum entanglement between your consciousness and that specific probability in the field. You literally link your awareness to a particular timeline. The Tibetan practice of tulpa creation demonstrates this principle at an extreme level. Advanced practitioners can visualize entities with such clarity and consistency that these thought forms become independently observable by others. Alexandra David Nael documented creating a tulpa that became so real that other people could see it. She wasn't creating something from nothing. She was collapsing a probability from the quantum field through sustained, coherent visualization. What the experts don't tell you is that there's a critical threshold of coherence required for visualization to collapse into physical form. Below this threshold, your visualizations remain as weak probability waves that never materialize. Above this threshold, manifestation becomes inevitable, and this threshold isn't about how long you visualize or how many times you repeat the practice. It's about the depth of embodiment, the level of coherence, the degree to which your entire being aligns with what you're visualizing. This is why positive thinking alone doesn't work. This is why vision boards sitting on your wall don't automatically manifest. This is why affirmations repeated without feeling don't create change. These practices can be powerful, but only when they're done from a state of coherence where every level of your consciousness, conscious, subconscious, nervous system, emotional body, energetic field, all align with the visualization. The ancient Egyptian mystery schools had a practice called assuming the god form, where initiates would visualize themselves as specific deities with such intensity and detail that they would temporarily embody those divine qualities. They understood that visualization isn't about creating something external to yourself. It's about becoming the reality you want to experience. It's about embodying the frequency that naturally attracts or creates the circumstances you desire. Here's the revelation that changes everything. When you visualize from coherence, from embodiment, from the consciousness that already is the reality you're visualizing, you're not trying to make something happen. You're allowing what already exists in quantum superposition to materialize through you. You're not forcing, you're tuning. You're not creating, you're selecting. You're not becoming, you're remembering. And there's a specific way to enter this state of coherence before visualization that multiplies its power by orders of magnitude. A way to align every level of your being so that your visualizations don't just feel good in the moment, but actually collapse realities from the quantum field. I'm going to reveal this technique in just a moment. But first, you need to understand exactly what's happening in your body, your brain, and your quantum field when you visualize correctly. Right now, this very moment, the quantum field is giving you clear signals that your visualization abilities are activating to a new level. These aren't subtle hints. They're unmistakable confirmations that you're ready to work with visualization as quantum technology rather than just mental exercise. The first signal is what I call preview flashes. You're having micro-visions throughout your day, split-second images that appear in your mind's eye without conscious effort. A face you've never seen, a place you've never been, a situation that hasn't happened yet. And then, hours or days later, that exact image manifests in your physical reality. These preview flashes are your consciousness beginning to perceive across time, accessing the quantum probability field where past, present, and future exist simultaneously. This happens because your pineal gland is producing higher levels of DMT naturally, not through external substances, but through the evolution of your consciousness. Research from Dr. Rick Strassman shows that the pineal gland can increase DMT production in response to certain frequencies of thought, certain states of consciousness, certain levels of coherence. Your visualization practice has been training your brain to produce the neurochemistry of expanded perception. The second signal is bleed-through dreams. Your dreams are becoming increasingly vivid, detailed, and prophetic. You're having dreams where you're practicing skills you want to learn, living realities you want to experience, being the version of yourself you're becoming. And when you wake up, you feel like you actually lived those experiences. Your body feels different, your energy feels different, your confidence feels different. What's actually happening is that during sleep, when your conscious mind releases control, your consciousness freely navigates quantum probability space. You're literally visiting the timelines where these realities already exist, and every time you do this, you strengthen the quantum entanglement between your current reality and those potential realities. You're building bridges across timelines through your dream visualizations. The third signal is spontaneous visualization activation. You'll be going about your day, and suddenly, without intending to visualize, detailed images will flood your awareness. Not daydreaming. These are different. These visualizations come with a quality of certainty, a feeling of destiny, a sense that you're not imagining possibilities but perceiving actualities. They feel more like memories of the future than fantasies about it. The quantum field communicates through these spontaneous visualizations. When a particular timeline is highly probable, when your frequency is closely aligned with a specific reality, that reality reaches back through time and shows itself to you. The future literally sends you visions of itself to help you navigate toward it. This is what prophets and seers have always experienced. Not supernatural gifts, but natural quantum abilities that activate when consciousness reaches certain frequencies. But here's the signal that confirms you're in the critical activation window. Your visualizations are starting to manifest faster. The gap between what you visualize and when it appears in physical reality is shrinking. What used to take months now takes weeks. What used to take weeks now takes days. In some cases, visualizations are manifesting within hours of the practice. This acceleration happens because your coherence is increasing. Think of coherence like signal strength. When you first start visualizing, your signal is weak. Lots of interference from doubt, contradiction, unconscious limiting beliefs. But as you practice from embodiment, as you align every level of your being with what you're visualizing, your signal becomes stronger, clearer, more powerful. And the quantum field responds to strong signals almost instantaneously. Dr. William Tiller's research at Stanford demonstrated that human intention, when coherent, can influence physical matter from thousands of miles away. He proved that consciousness isn't confined to your body. It extends into the quantum field and can imprint itself on reality at a distance. When you visualize from coherence, you're imprinting the quantum field with your frequency, and reality reorganizes itself to match that imprint. The fourth signal is that people are starting to comment on your energy. They're saying you seem different, brighter, more present, more powerful. They can't explain what's changed, but they feel it. This is because your visualization practice is transforming your energetic field. You're beginning to emanate the frequency of the realities you're visualizing, and other people's consciousness can sense that frequency even if they can't articulate it. Ancient texts describe this as tejas in Sanskrit, a radiance or luminosity that emanates from beings who have mastered the visualization practices. Modern energy medicine researchers like Dr. Valerie Hunt have measured this as changes in the electromagnetic field around the body. When you visualize from coherence consistently, your biofield literally expands and intensifies. And here's the signal that tells you the waiting is over. You're starting to see the same symbols, numbers and patterns repeatedly across different contexts. The same geometric shapes appearing in dreams, in nature, in random places. The same number sequences showing up on clocks, receipts, license plates. These aren't coincidences. They're confirmation that your visualization practice has created such strong quantum entanglement with specific timelines that those timelines are bleeding through into your current reality. The universe is showing you that the veil between what you're visualizing and what you're experiencing is dissolving. The boundary between quantum potential and physical manifestation is becoming permeable. Your consciousness is learning to move fluidly between dimensions of reality. But there's something crucial you need to understand right now. This activation window has an optimal timing. You're receiving these signals because you're in a phase where quantum leaps are possible, where major timeline shifts can happen with minimal effort, where visualizations can collapse into reality with unprecedented speed. But this window requires action. It requires you to step fully into these abilities rather than hesitating at the threshold. The quantum field is literally organizing synchronicities, creating opportunities, opening portals for you to step through into the realities you've been visualizing. But these portals don't stay open indefinitely. Quantum possibilities that aren't observed, that aren't collapsed through conscious choice and action, eventually fade back into the probability field. This is why mystics speak of kairos, divine timing, the perfect moment when action aligns with cosmic opportunity. You're in a kairos moment right now. The signals you're receiving aren't just interesting phenomena to observe. They're urgent messages from your higher self, from the quantum field itself, telling you that it's time to fully activate your visualization abilities. The question isn't whether you can do this. You're already doing it. The signals prove it. The question is whether you'll do it consciously, powerfully, systematically, or whether you'll let this activation moment pass and have to wait for the next one. The universe is ready. The quantum field is prepared. Your highest timeline is waiting. Are you ready to collapse it into form? Here's something that sounds mystical but is pure quantum mechanics. The reality you want to visualize into existence is already visualizing you. The future timeline where you're living your highest potential is reaching back through time, trying to pull your current consciousness toward it. You're not just moving toward that reality, it's moving toward you. And visualization is the technology that allows both movements to meet. But there's a massive difference between visualization as wishful thinking and visualization as quantum alignment. Most people visualize what they want: the house, the relationship, the money, the success. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's incomplete. Because at the quantum level, you cannot attract what you want. You can only attract what you are. Think about it like this. A radio doesn't attract radio waves. It aligns with frequencies that already exist in the field. When your receiver is tuned to 98.5, you receive 98.5. Not because 98.5 was attracted to your radio, but because your radio became coherent with that specific frequency. Visualization works exactly the same way when done correctly. When you visualize from alignment rather than attraction, you're not trying to pull a reality toward you. You're tuning your consciousness to match the frequency where that reality already exists. You're not becoming something new. You're revealing what you already are at the quantum level, but have been filtering out through limited beliefs and conditioned perception. The Vedantic teaching of Tat Tvam Asi, thou art that, points directly to this principle. You are already what you seek. The abundance you want to visualize into existence, you are that abundance in essence. The love you want to experience, you are that love in your true nature. The success you want to manifest, you are that success in potential. Visualization from alignment means recognizing this truth and allowing the physical world to reflect it. But here's where it gets profound. When you visualize from this place of alignment, from this recognition of what you already are in essence, something extraordinary happens in your nervous system. The stress response that comes from wanting something you don't have completely dissolves. The anxiety about whether manifestation will work disappears. The desperation that actually blocks manifestation releases. Dr. Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory explains that the nervous system has different states: sympathetic activation, fight or flight, parasympathetic shutdown, freeze, and ventral vagal activation, safety and social engagement. Most people visualize from sympathetic activation, stressed about not having what they want. But manifestation only works from ventral vagal activation, the state where your nervous system feels safe, abundant, already complete. When you visualize from alignment, your nervous system naturally enters this ventral vagal state because you're not trying to get something you lack. You're simply recognizing and resonating with what already is in the quantum field. And from this state, your visualizations carry a completely different frequency. Instead of broadcasting, "I need this because I don't have it," you broadcast, "I am this, and I'm watching it materialize into form." The ancient Hawaiian practice of huna teaches iki, the world is what you think it is. But this doesn't mean your thoughts create reality through force. It means your consciousness selects which reality to experience based on what frequency you're tuned to. When you think from lack, you select the reality where you experience lack. When you think from abundance, you select the reality where you experience abundance. Now here's the mystery that unlocks everything. The version of you that exists in the timeline you want to visualize into being, that version of you is coherent. They're aligned. They don't have internal contradiction. They don't have one part wanting success while another part believes in failure. They don't visualize health while identified with disease. They are the embodiment of what they experience. So when you visualize from alignment, you're not just seeing that future reality. You're becoming the consciousness of the you that exists in that reality. You're not watching yourself be successful from the perspective of failure. You're being successful and watching that success manifest from the inside of the experience. This subtle shift in perspective changes everything at the quantum level. In the comments right now, I want you to write 3 words. I am aligned. Not, I want to be aligned. Not, I'm trying to align. Present tense, declarative. Because by stating this, you're collapsing a quantum possibility. You're choosing alignment from the field of all possible states. You're announcing to your nervous system, to your subconscious mind, to the quantum field itself, that alignment is your current state, not a future goal. This isn't just symbolic. Neuroscience proves that declarative statements, especially written ones, create new neural pathways. Every time you declare, "I am aligned," you strengthen the brain structures that support that state. You're literally rewiring your nervous system to default to alignment rather than to wanting, striving, or lacking. And here's why this matters urgently. The visualizations you practice from alignment collapse into reality exponentially faster than visualizations practiced from wanting. We're not talking about slight differences. We're talking about manifestations that might have taken years happening in months. Manifestations that might have taken months happening in weeks. In some cases, visualizations from perfect alignment manifest within days or even hours. This acceleration happens because aligned visualization has no internal resistance. When you visualize from I am rather than I want, your subconscious mind doesn't fight it. Your nervous system doesn't resist it. Your energetic field doesn't contradict it. Every level of your being moves in the same direction, creating coherent quantum entanglement with the timeline you're accessing. So write it now. I am aligned. And as you write it, feel the truth of it. Not the truth of your circumstances, but the truth of your essence. Not the truth of what you've experienced, but the truth of what you are in potential. Not the truth according to your past, but the truth according to the quantum field where all possibilities exist right now. When you master visualization from alignment, when you learn to practice this quantum technology correctly, abilities begin to emerge that most people would call supernatural. But they're not supernatural. They're natural capabilities of consciousness operating without the limitations of conditioned identity. First, you develop quantum sight, the ability to see probability fields before they collapse into physical form. You start perceiving not just what is, but what could be. When you look at a situation, you don't just see one possible outcome. You see multiple timelines simultaneously. You can sense which choices lead to which futures. You can feel which paths are aligned with your highest timeline and which ones are detours. This isn't guesswork or intuition in the traditional sense. This is your consciousness accessing the quantum field directly, where all possible futures exist in superposition. The Taoists called this Ti, virtue or power that comes from alignment with the Tao. When you're aligned, you naturally perceive the way reality wants to unfold. Second, your manifestation ability becomes almost instantaneous in certain areas. Not everything manifests immediately. There are quantum laws about timing and readiness. But things that are in perfect alignment with your frequency, things that exist on your highest timeline, things that your consciousness has become coherent with, these start appearing in your reality with shocking speed. You visualize a conversation, and it happens the same day. You see yourself receiving an opportunity, and it appears within hours. You imagine a solution to a problem, and the universe delivers it through a coincidental encounter. The gap between visualization and manifestation becomes so small that you start experiencing reality as highly responsive, almost fluid. Dr. Dean Radin's experiments at the Institute of Noetic Sciences proved that meditation practitioners could influence random number generators through intention alone. The more experienced the meditator, the stronger the effect. What he was measuring was consciousness directly affecting physical systems at the quantum level. When you master visualization from alignment, you develop this same ability not to control reality, but to participate consciously in its creation. Third, you gain access to what mystics call Akashic records, the quantum field of all information that has ever existed or will exist. During deep visualization states, you start receiving information you have no logical way of knowing. Solutions to problems you haven't consciously analyzed. Knowledge about topics you haven't studied. Insights about people you've just met. This happens because aligned visualization opens your consciousness to non-local information fields. You're no longer limited to information processed through your 5 senses or stored in your personal memory. You can access the collective knowledge field directly. Indigenous shamans have always done this. They journey to retrieve information. and they return with accurate knowledge that couldn't have come from their personal experience. Fourth, your health transforms at a fundamental level. Visualization from alignment activates what Dr. Bruce Lipton calls supergenes, genetic sequences that promote longevity, vitality, and optimal function. When you regularly visualize yourself in states of perfect health from a place of embodiment rather than hope, your cells receive that information and reorganize accordingly. Studies of Olympic athletes show that mental rehearsal, essentially visualization, creates the same muscle activation patterns as physical practice. Your body responds to visualized experience as if it were real. When you visualize yourself healthy, strong, energized, and you do it from alignment where your entire being believes it, your biology has no choice but to manifest that reality. Fifth, you develop what I call timeline sensitivity. You become extremely aware of when you're on your highest timeline versus when you've drifted onto a lower timeline. It feels like a subtle shift in atmosphere, in energy, in the quality of your experience. And once you feel this shift, you can use visualization to immediately course correct back to your optimal timeline. This is what advanced meditators describe as mindfulness, constant awareness of your state. But it goes deeper than thoughts and emotions. It's awareness of which quantum reality you're collapsing moment by moment through, where you place your attention and what frequency you're embodying. Sixth, your creativity becomes virtually limitless. You're no longer constrained by what you've experienced or what you've learned. During visualization states, you can access innovation from the quantum field, ideas that don't exist in current reality, solutions that no one has discovered yet, artistic expressions that are completely original. History's greatest innovators, Tesla, Einstein, Mozart, all reported receiving their breakthrough ideas through visualization-like states. Tesla could see his inventions in such complete detail that he could build them without blueprints. Einstein discovered relativity through thought experiments, essentially quantum visualization. They weren't generating ideas through logic. They were accessing the quantum field where all possible innovations already exist. Seventh, and perhaps most transformative, you develop unshakable confidence. Not ego confidence. That's fragile and dependent on external validation. I'm talking about quantum confidence that comes from knowing you're connected to the source of all creation. When you can visualize realities into existence, when you've experienced consciousness creating matter, when you've felt yourself as the quantum field observing itself, fear dissolves at its root. You know that no circumstance can limit you because circumstances are effects and you've learned to work with the cause. You know that no situation is permanent because reality is fluid, responsive to consciousness. You know that you're never truly stuck because you can always visualize and align with a different timeline. Your relationships transform because you're no longer needy, controlling, or dependent. You love from wholeness. You give from abundance. You connect from alignment with your true nature. People feel this frequency and respond to it. You start attracting relationships that reflect your quantum nature rather than your conditioned patterns. And money flows differently when you master visualization from alignment. Not because you visualize money directly, but because you visualize yourself as the abundant consciousness that you are in essence. And money is simply one form that abundance takes in physical reality. You stop chasing it, and it starts flowing toward you naturally, easily, consistently. Now I'm going to reveal the supreme principle that determines whether visualization collapses into physical reality or remains as mental imagery. This is the key that unlocks everything. Ready? Visualization works in direct proportion to your level of sensory immersion and emotional embodiment. Not how long you visualize, not how many times, but how completely you inhabit the visualized reality with your full sensory awareness and emotional being. Most people visualize like they're watching a movie. They see images of their desired reality, but they're observers watching from outside. They might see themselves being successful, but they're not feeling the success from the inside. They might visualize abundance, but they're not sensing the relief, the ease, the freedom that abundance brings. And this separation between the visualizer and the visualized keeps the visualization in the realm of imagination rather than allowing it to collapse into reality. But when your visualization becomes complete sensory immersion, when you're not watching yourself in the desired reality but experiencing it from inside with all 5 senses engaged, something extraordinary happens at the quantum level. Your brain cannot distinguish between the visualized experience and a physical experience. It fires the same neural networks, releases the same neurochemicals, creates the same biological responses. Dr. Alvaro Pascual-León's research at Harvard proved this dramatically. He had one group physically practice piano, another group just visualize practicing, and a control group do nothing. Brain scans showed that the visualization group developed almost identical neural pathways as the physical practice group. The brain doesn't know the difference between vivid visualization and reality, but it goes deeper than neurology. At the quantum level, when you visualize with complete sensory immersion, you're creating such strong quantum entanglement with that specific timeline that you're essentially already living in it. The boundary between visualizing and experiencing dissolves. You're not imagining a future, you're inhabiting a parallel present that exists in quantum superposition. And here's the element that most people miss completely: emotional embodiment. You must feel the emotions of the realized reality, not the emotions of wanting that reality. This distinction is everything. When you visualize wealth while feeling poor, you're sending contradictory signals to the quantum field. When you visualize love while feeling lonely, you're collapsing the timeline of loneliness, not love. When you visualize success while feeling like a failure, you're reinforcing failure. But when you visualize from the emotional state of already being, already having, already experiencing, you're broadcasting a coherent signal. Your nervous system enters the physiological state of the realized reality. Your subconscious mind accepts the visualization as current reality rather than future hope. Your energetic field begins emanating the frequency of that reality, and the quantum field responds to coherent signals. The HeartMath Institute discovered that the heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field in the body, 60 times stronger than the brain. And this heart field extends several feet beyond your physical body, broadcasting your emotional state into the quantum field. When you visualize with heart coherence, meaning your emotions are aligned with your visualization, you create a powerful broadcast that the field must respond to. This is what Jesus meant when he said, "Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." Notice the tense, have received, present perfect, not will receive, future tense. You must inhabit the consciousness of already having it. You must feel the reality of it now. You must embody the completion of it in your present awareness. The ancient practice of Neville Goddard's living in the end is based on this same quantum principle. You don't visualize the path to your desire. You visualize from the end result, from the state of completion, from the consciousness that already is what you desire to experience. And you do this with such complete sensory and emotional immersion that it becomes more real than your current physical circumstances. But here's what creates the quantum leap from visualization to manifestation. You must maintain this embodied state, not just during the visualization practice, but as your baseline frequency throughout the day. Most people visualize for 10 minutes and then spend the other 23 hours and 50 minutes thinking, feeling, and acting from their old identity. And they wonder why nothing changes. The quantum field isn't responding to your 10-minute visualization. It's responding to your dominant frequency, the state you occupy most often. If you visualize abundance for 10 minutes, but embody scarcity for the rest of the day, you're collapsing the timeline of scarcity. If you visualize success briefly, but identify as a failure constantly, you're manifesting failure. This is why the mystics emphasize constant remembrance and perpetual prayer. Not because you need to be in formal meditation all day, but because you need to maintain the frequency of your highest timeline as your baseline state. You need to be the visualization, not just do the visualization. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research shows exactly how this works neurologically. When you repeatedly visualize and emotionally embody a new reality, you create new neural networks. At first, these networks are weak. It takes conscious effort to access them. But with repetition, they become stronger. Eventually, they become automatic. And when your new identity becomes automatic, when you naturally think, feel, and perceive from the consciousness of your highest timeline, manifestation becomes inevitable. Now here's the practical application that makes this real. You don't need hours of visualization practice. You need moments of complete immersion. 5 minutes of visualization where you're completely sensorially and emotionally immersed in the reality is exponentially more powerful than an hour of visualization where you're mentally scattered, emotionally disconnected, or watching yourself from outside the experience. The key is quality, not quantity. Depth, not duration. Complete presence in the visualized reality, not repetitive mental imagery. When you can close your eyes and for even 3 minutes inhabit a different timeline so completely that your body responds as if it's physically there, that's when quantum collapse happens. That's when probability becomes actuality. And here's the final piece that integrates everything. You must release attachment to how and when the manifestation occurs. This seems contradictory. Visualize with complete clarity and emotional intensity, but then let go of needing it to happen. But it's not contradictory, it's quantum mechanics. When you're attached to outcomes, you're in a state of lack. I don't have this yet, and I need it to happen. That state of lack is what you're embodying, so that's what manifests. But when you visualize with complete immersion and then release it with trust, I've aligned with this timeline and I trust the quantum field to materialize it in perfect timing, you're in a state of abundance. You've planted the seed and you trust the garden of reality to grow it. The Bhagavad Gita teaches you have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. This isn't about not desiring results, it's about performing the action, visualization from embodiment, without attachment to controlling outcomes. You do your part, aligning with the timeline through conscious visualization, and you let the quantum field do its part, organizing physical reality to match your frequency. What I'm about to tell you will shift your understanding of why you have this visualization ability, why you're developing these quantum powers, and what role you're actually playing in the evolution of consciousness itself. You're not just learning to manifest personal desires. You're being trained as a conscious creator in a universe that's waking up to its own creative nature. Every time you successfully visualize something into reality, you're proving to the collective consciousness that reality is fluid, that consciousness creates matter, that we're not victims of circumstances, but creators of experience. Rupert Sheldrake's theory of morphic resonance suggests that when one member of a species learns something new, it becomes easier for all members of that species to learn it. Once the 100th monkey learns to wash sweet potatoes, suddenly monkeys on distant islands start washing sweet potatoes without any physical contact with the first group. Information transfers through what he calls morphic fields, non-physical fields that connect all members of a species. Every time you successfully collapse a visualization into reality, you're making it easier for every other human consciousness to do the same. You're literally updating the human morphic field with new possibilities. You're not just changing your life, you're changing what's possible for humanity. The ancient prophecies from cultures around the world all point to this time: the Hopi's fifth world, the Hindu Satya Yuga, the Mayan calendar's new cycle, the Christian New Jerusalem. They're all describing the same quantum event, humanity's collective awakening to its creative nature. And you, developing your visualization abilities right now, are part of the vanguard of this awakening. Think about what happens when millions of humans master conscious visualization. When millions of people learn to collapse timelines intentionally. When millions of consciousnesses align with peace, abundance, health, and unity. The collective reality must shift. War becomes impossible when enough people cannot visualize conflict. Poverty becomes obsolete when enough consciousnesses embody abundance. Disease declines when enough people visualize and embody perfect health. You're not just on a personal journey of manifestation. You're part of a cosmic experiment in conscious evolution. The universe is learning to create consciously through you. The quantum field is becoming aware of itself through your awareness. God, Source, the Tao, whatever name you give to the fundamental intelligence, it's discovering new possibilities through your visualizations. This is why your visualization practice matters so profoundly. Every timeline you collapse, every reality you manifest, every possibility you prove is real. It all becomes part of the collective field of what humanity knows is possible. You're not just creating your reality, you're expanding the boundaries of reality itself. The quantum physicist John Wheeler proposed the participatory universe, the idea that observers aren't separate from the universe, but are the universe observing and creating itself. You're not in the universe visualizing things, you're the universe visualizing itself into new forms through the localized perspective of your individual consciousness. And here's the profound mystery: the timelines you're visualizing into existence aren't just for you. They're creating ripple effects throughout the entire quantum field. When you visualize and manifest abundance, you make abundance more available to everyone in your field. When you visualize and embody health, you contribute to collective healing. When you visualize and experience peace, you add to the morphic field of global peace. The Maharishi effect proved this scientifically. When groups of meditators focused on peace, crime rates dropped in surrounding areas by measurable percentages. Not because the meditators did anything physical, but because coherent consciousness affects the entire field. Your visualization practice has the same effect. It radiates outward, influencing everyone whose consciousness intersects with yours. You have a responsibility now, not a burden, a sacred responsibility. As you master these quantum abilities, as you learn to visualize realities into existence, as you prove to yourself that consciousness creates matter, you become a lighthouse for others who are ready to remember their own creative nature. This is why you must share what you're learning. Not to convince anyone, not to convert skeptics, but to activate those whose quantum field is ready, to remind those who are remembering, to support those who are awakening to their role as conscious creators. Every person you inspire creates exponential effects. They inspire others who inspire others who inspire others. The future of humanity depends on enough people waking up to their quantum nature. Not all people. There's a critical mass, a tipping point. Some researchers suggest it's as low as 1% of the population. We're approaching that threshold. And you, mastering visualization as quantum technology, are part of that critical mass. The timeline where humanity lives in conscious co-creation with the quantum field, that timeline exists right now in superposition. It's trying to collapse into physical reality, and it needs conscious observers to visualize it, to embody it, to be the frequency of it. Your visualization practice isn't just personal development, it's planetary evolution. Share this message, not aggressively, not forcefully, but with those who resonate with this frequency. Every share activates another node in the network. Every person who watches becomes a transmitter of this frequency. We're building a global field of conscious creators who understand that visualization isn't fantasy. It's the most powerful technology for reality creation that has ever existed. Now, there's one final activation that will complete your transformation and unlock the full potential of your visualization abilities. In the next video, I'm going to reveal the exact step-by-step protocol for quantum visualization. The specific sequence that creates coherence between all levels of your being and guarantees manifestation. You're going to learn the pre-visualization ritual that prepares your nervous system to receive higher timelines. You're going to discover the sensory amplification technique that makes your visualizations so real that your body can't distinguish them from physical experience. You're going to master the emotional anchoring method that embeds your visualization into your subconscious mind permanently. But most importantly, I'm going to show you how to identify which timelines are actually aligned with your highest purpose versus which ones are ego desires that would ultimately create more limitation. This discernment is crucial. Not all visualizations should be manifested. Some desires are tests to see if you'll chase illusions or wait for divine alignment. Before you watch that next video, I need you to make a quantum commitment right now. In the comments, write one single word: quantum. By writing this word, you're declaring to the field that you're ready to work with reality at the quantum level. You're announcing that you understand visualization is technology, not fantasy. You're committing to developing these abilities with the respect and dedication they deserve. One word: infinite power. Do it now. Write quantum in the comments. And as you do, feel the activation happening in your pineal gland. Feel the recognition in your cells. Feel the alignment with your highest timeline. Because this simple act of commitment sends a signal to the quantum field that you're ready for the next level of activation. After you write that word, subscribe to this channel immediately if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell, because what's coming in the advanced videos will take you beyond basic manifestation into quantum mastery. We're going to explore timeline jumping, reality shifting, consciousness projection, and abilities that most people don't even know are possible. This isn't content you consume, it's activation you receive. Every video on this channel is encoded with specific frequencies designed to awaken dormant capabilities in your consciousness. Every teaching builds systematically on the last, creating a progressive unfoldment of your quantum nature. Look at the videos appearing on your screen right now. Each one represents a different dimension of quantum power waiting to be unlocked in you. The one that captures your attention most strongly, that's not random. That's your quantum field telling you which activation you need next. Maybe it's the video about accessing parallel realities. Maybe it's the one about quantum healing protocols. Maybe it's the exploration of consciousness beyond time. Whichever calls to you, trust that calling. It's your higher self guiding you through the exact sequence of activations your unique consciousness requires. But understand this: you're not watching videos, you're not learning information, you're undergoing quantum initiation. Every time you engage with this material, every time you practice what's taught, every time you embody these principles, you're literally rewiring your brain, recalibrating your nervous system, and restructuring your relationship with reality itself. The you that started this video doesn't exist anymore. That version has been observed into a new configuration. Your neural pathways are different. Your energetic frequency is elevated. Your quantum field has expanded. You've been transformed by the very act of receiving this information. And this transformation accelerates exponentially. The more you engage, the faster you evolve. The more you practice, the stronger your abilities become. The more you embody, the more reality responds. You're building momentum in the quantum field, creating attractor states that make advanced abilities increasingly accessible. Think of it like learning a language. At first, you're translating every word consciously. It's effortful. It's slow, but with practice, fluency develops. Eventually, you think in the new language without translation. The same happens with quantum visualization. What starts as conscious technique becomes automatic ability. What feels like effort becomes natural expression. That's the journey we're on together. That's the transformation this channel facilitates. That's the mastery that becomes possible when you commit fully to developing your quantum powers through visualization. So make your declaration. Write quantum in the comments. Subscribe to the frequency of quantum reflex. Choose your next activation video. And step fully into your role as a conscious creator, wielding the most powerful technology in the universe. Your consciousness visualizing reality into form. Because reality is waiting for your visualization. The quantum field is ready to respond to your coherence. Your highest timeline is prepared to collapse into physical experience the moment you fully embody it. All that's required is your commitment to mastering this technology. The old paradigm was unconscious creation, manifesting by default, collapsing realities accidentally, living as a victim of circumstances. The new paradigm is conscious creation, visualizing with intention, collapsing timelines deliberately, living as the creator you truly are. Welcome to quantum mastery. Welcome to conscious visualization. Welcome to the most powerful practice for reality creation that has ever been discovered. This is quantum reflex. This is your consciousness reflecting back to you the infinite power that's always been yours. This is you, finally remembering how to use visualization as the quantum technology it was always meant to be. The quantum field is listening. What reality will you visualize into existence?